If you are looking to buy a car in 2024, you are probably dealing with high interest rates and long wait lists. With the current market, you don't want to stretch yourself too thin by committing to a car that is beyond what you can actually afford. The last thing that you want is to be car poor, which, according to the Urban Dictionary, because we all know it's accurate, is having an insanely high car payment that prevents you from doing anything that costs even a minuscule amount of money and prevents you from anything other than top ramen. When you go into a dealership without a plan as to your budget, you're going to be swept away by the fancy options and the pretty price tag might get the better of you. In today's video, I'll walk you through how you can calculate how much car you can actually afford. So when you walk into a dealership, you could have your blinders on with what car you can walk away with and be confident that you made the right decision. So let's jump into it. 5 major factors affecting monthly car payments. Unless you're paying outright in cash, in most cases, I'm going to assume that you would need financing of some kind. So your monthly payments are going to be important to you. There are 5 major factors that impact your monthly car payments. The first is going to be the total loan amount. The less that you take out, lower your payments will be. The second are interest rates. The lower your interest rates, the lower your payments will be. The third is the loan term. The longer your term, the lower your payments will be, but you also need to factor in that you will be paying higher interest. The fourth is the down payment. The higher your down payment, the lower your payments will be. And the fifth is your credit history. The better your credit history, the better chances of you qualifying for lower interest rates and better loan terms, which would overall reduce your payments. So going into a car dealership, it's important to know all of these 5 factors so that you aren't taken advantage of by the car salesman whose mission would be to alter any of these factors so that the monthly payments fit within your budget no matter what. 3 formulas to keep in mind. There are also benchmarks that financial experts have recommended, and today we'll be covering 3 key ones. The first one is a 35% rule. When determining the cost of a car, a rule of thumb is to never spend more than 35% of your gross annual income on a car. So let's say that your gross income before taxes is $70,000 per year. This means that the car that you are looking to purchase shouldn't cost more than $24,500. The second rule is a 10-20 rule. When it comes to monthly payments, there is a 10-20 rule in which car buyers should spend no more than 10% of their take-home pay on a car loan payment and no more than 20% for total car expenses, which also includes things like gas, insurance, repairs, and maintenance. The third is the 24-10 rule. And how this works is, according to the formula, you should make a 20% down payment on a car with a 4-year car loan and then spend no more than 10% of your monthly income on transportation expenses. In this case, I'm assuming that the 10% on monthly income refers to gross income. There's a lot of rules and formulas which all may seem very confusing. So what I've done was take all of these rules of thumb and combine them in a step-by-step tutorial so that you could calculate exactly how much car you can afford so that you don't become car poor. So let's jump right into the calculations. Welcome to the tutorial portion of the video where I'll be walking you through step by step exactly how to calculate how much car you can afford. This is a template that I've created and I've taken into consideration the 3 rules of thumb that we previously went over, as well as the 5 factors that determine your monthly payment amount. So there are a couple things to note before we get started. You'll see that there are 2 colored cells. The first is in green, and as you can see here, green is for you to update based on your specific numbers, whatever amounts that make sense to you. But you will notice that there are already amounts embedded in some of the green cells. These you could change if you like, but these are the recommended percentages, the recommended amounts based on the rules of thumb that we discussed. And you'll see which rule it refers to based on the notes in column C. And then moving on to the gray colored cells, these cells are automatically calculated based on the inputs that you put in the green cells. So let's just get started right away. Step 1, we first determine how much car you could afford right off the bat. So let's say that your gross income in this case before taxes is $70,000. You can see here that it has calculated based on the 35% rule, which means that the max car that you could think about buying is $24,500. Now, moving on to step 2, we determine how much of a deposit you would need to put down and the financing needed. Based on the calculation above, where the max car value is $24,500, the 24/10 rule recommends a 20% deposit. That means that your deposit amount would be $4,900, and then your financing needed would be the rest, which is $19,600. Moving on to step 3, we now calculate what the loan term is. If our financing needed is $19,600, then the 24/10 rule recommends a 4-year loan, which means that every year your annual repayment would be $4,900. Now, moving on to step 4, this is where we calculate the loan interest and monthly payment. So going back to the $19,600 that we need for financing, the interest rate here we put down is 5%. This is going to depend on your specific credit score. So this can be higher if your credit score isn't that great, or it could be lower if you have a great credit history. In order to get a more accurate number for yourself, do some research, go to credit unions, go to car dealerships, and see what sort of interest percentage might be applicable to you once they put in your credit history. And then you could use that percentage and plug it in here to see how that affects your calculations. In the meantime, let's go for 5%. That means that if you are making monthly payments, your interest rate per month is going to be 0.42%. So as you can see, it's being automatically calculated. That means that your payment frequency is going to be monthly. The loan term is, as we said, 4 years. And that means that the total number of months in the loan term is going to be 48 months. And with all that information, we are able to calculate your monthly payment. Here it is $451. Moving on to step 5, we also get to see a breakdown of how much payment you need to make throughout the year and how much of that is allocated to your principal and how much of that is allocated to your interest. In this case, as we mentioned, your monthly payment is $451. That means annually you're paying car payments of $5,416. And of that, $4,540 is related to the principal component, and then $877 is related to the interest component. And as you can see here, that there is a note that refers to a different tab called car payment amortization, and it provides you with a further breakdown. I guess we could just jump over there right now just to show you how it looks. So jumping on here, you'll see that it's pulling all the amount from the previous tab, your financing needed, your interest rate per month, the total number of months, what your monthly payment is. And with that information, it gives you a breakdown every single month. And in the first column, we see number. This refers to the number of months, and we could expect to see up to 48. And the second column here is the payment amount. This refers to your monthly payment, which is $451, and that stays consistent throughout the loan term. But the only thing that changes from month to month is the portion that gets attributed to your principal versus your interest. Obviously, as you pay down your car, the amount, the financing needed decreases, which means that you pay less interest over time. And that is shown in this amortization table, where the principal amount gets higher and higher, and then the interest amount gets lower and lower. And then in the final column here, in column E, you can see what your balance is after you pay your monthly payments and after certain amounts are allocated to the principal and the interest. So as you can see here, over time, it gets paid down. And at the end of 48 months, you have a $0 balance. So this means that at the end of 48 months, you have finally paid off your car. Now that we understand our monthly payments, how much of it goes to your principal, how much it goes to your interest, we can move on to step 6, which is calculating your monthly income after tax. At the beginning, the gross income indicated is $70,000. That's before tax. Now we need to come up with the figure after tax, because that is the actual amount that you need to work with to budget and to allocate different expenses. I've added a link here where you could calculate your after-tax income. So all you have to do is click on it. You can indicate which province, and then you could input your income. So we'll put in $70,000. That means that your after-tax income is $53,710. And with that, we are able to calculate what your monthly income is after tax. Now we are going to move on to step 7, where we add up the car usage fee. So these are all the expenses that are other than your monthly car payments. We need to take into consideration your insurance on a monthly basis, your gas on a monthly basis, your maintenance, as well as budget some unexpected costs, such as towing, as well as other miscellaneous costs. And here it's just a matter of using your best estimate. For insurance, we could work with $200. For gas, let's also assume $200. For maintenance, let's say $100. And then for miscellaneous, let's put in $50. So here, the total other car usage fee is $550. Now, moving on to step 8 is the sanity check. Can you really afford it? The rule of thumb that is being applied here when it comes to your monthly car payments is to not exceed 10 to 15% of your after-tax monthly income. So after putting in the recommended 10% here, you can see that the target car payment is $448. This is calculated by taking your monthly income after tax and then applying the 10%. So your monthly target car payment is $448, whereas the calculated car payment above was $451. So there is a small difference of $4 where you are over the target. And then the second part here is to calculate the car usage fee. So when it comes to target car usage fee, the recommended percentage is between 5 to 10%. We'll use 10% in this case. That is $448. The calculated car payment, however, is $550 above here. So we are over the target by $102. So the 10% here and the 10% here refers to the 10-20 rule, which means that your monthly car payments should not exceed more than 10% of your after-tax monthly income. And then in total, your monthly car payments plus your car usage fee should not exceed 20% of your after-tax monthly income. So if you add these two up, it does add up to 20. And then the first case here is 10%. If you want more flexibility, I put in a range for you here where it's 10 to 15% and 5 to 10%. But ideally, these would add up to 20%. So in this case, you can see that the target car payment is $895, whereas the calculated car payment is $1,001. So we are over the target here by $106. And the result here is that you can't afford the car yet. In this case, you have to consider whether it's okay to be over budget by $106. This will affect other parts of your budget, such as your grocery, your savings, etc. You could try to go back and change certain factors like the cost of the car. You could put in a bigger deposit. You can see if you qualify for a lower interest rate. You could even, be more conservative about your maintenance and other fees. Let's say that your gas is $175 and then your insurance is $175. Let's say that you got a really good deal when it comes to insurance. In those cases, here you are still under budget by $6. So let's say your monthly maintenance is $75. In this case, you are under the target by $19. And as you can see here, the answer has changed to yes when it comes to if you can afford the car. If you found this tutorial useful and you would like access to this template, I will be providing a link to it down in the description box and it will be available for purchase. Having a car is one of those things where it's convenient and saves a lot of time, but it's also a depreciating asset, meaning that its value goes down over time. So it's important to differentiate between a car that you want versus a car that you can afford in order to avoid being car poor. If you found this video helpful and you are interested in the template that I used today, I've included a link for you to purchase down below. And if you also want to know whether it is better to buy cash, finance, or lease a car, I have just a video for you which shows you what is a cheaper option, which I will also be linking above here. Thank you for watching today, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!